The universe has a very specific, very twisted sense of humor, and apparently, I am its favorite punchline. My life was already a carefully constructed house of cards, held together by sheer willpower and an alarming amount of instant ramen. I lived in a studio apartment in the part of the city where the streetlights hummed with a menacing sort of electricity, and the radiator sounded like a dying Victorian ghost. My bank account was a desolate wasteland of $4.12. I was 26 years old, a freelance illustrator whose biggest client was a local vegan bakery that paid me mostly in day-old muffins, and I was currently staring at a small plastic stick that was telling me my life was officially over. 2 pink lines. They weren't even faint. They were bold, assertive, and terrifyingly permanent. I sat on the edge of my bathtub, which, for the record, had a permanent rust stain shaped vaguely like the state of Ohio, and I felt the walls start to close in. This was not the plan. The plan was to finally get my portfolio in front of a real agency, maybe buy a succulent that didn't immediately turn brown and die, and perhaps find a girl who didn't ghost me after 3 dates. It was not this. I was alone. I was broke, and I was terrified. Naturally, my first instinct was to panic. My second instinct was to tell the one person who usually talked me off the ledge, my sister, Sarah. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. I took a photo of the test, the lighting in my bathroom making everything look sickly and yellow, and I typed out a message with thumbs that felt like lead. Sarah, please don't scream. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. I hit send. I watched the little blue bubble float away, carrying the weight of my entire future with it. I waited. Usually Sarah responds within 30 seconds with an explosion of emojis or a frantic phone call. But the 3 dots didn't appear. Instead, my phone buzzed almost immediately. I looked at the screen expecting a what? Or a call me now, but the number at the top of the thread wasn't Sarah's. It was a number I didn't recognize, a local area code but definitely not hers. My stomach didn't just drop. It performed a triple backflip into an abyss. I checked the digits. 1 number off. 1 single, stupid, life-altering digit. I had sent a photo of my positive pregnancy test and a confession of absolute terror to a complete stranger. The reply was 3 words long. It was typed with a level of grammatical precision that felt aggressive. Who is this? I stared at the screen, my breath hitching in my throat. My brain, in its infinite wisdom, decided that the best course of action was to simply stop functioning. I could have apologized. I could have said, "So sorry, wrong number. Please delete that and pretend I don't exist." But no, I am Maya Thorne, and I handle stress by becoming a human ostrich. I blocked the number. I blocked it so fast my thumb nearly cracked the screen. Then, I turned my phone off, threw it across the room onto my pile of laundry, and crawled into bed. I pulled the covers over my head and told myself that if I didn't see the world couldn't see me. It was a flawless plan. It lasted exactly 14 hours. The next morning the world didn't just see me. It came knocking on my door with a sledgehammer. Not literally, but it felt like it. I was at my part-time job at the Grinded Bean, a coffee shop that smelled perpetually of burnt milk and desperation. I was wearing an apron that had seen better decades, and my hair was tied back in a knot that could only be described as a cry for help. I was mid-pour trying to convince a very angry man that we were in fact out of oat milk, when the bell above the door chimed. The air in the shop changed. It didn't just get colder, it got heavier. It was the kind of atmospheric shift that happens right before a massive storm breaks. I looked up and for a second I forgot how to use my lungs. A woman was standing in the doorway. She didn't just walk in, she occupied the space. She was tall, draped in a coat that probably cost more than my entire college education, and her hair was a dark, sharp bob that looked like it could cut glass. Her eyes were the color of the ocean right before it turns into a hurricane. She wasn't just beautiful. She was formidable. She looked like she owned the building, the street, and quite possibly the concept of time itself. She didn't look at the menu. She didn't look at the other customers. She looked directly at me. My heart started doing a frantic tap dance against my ribs. I knew. I didn't know how I knew, but I knew. This was the stranger. This was the wrong number. She walked toward the counter with a slow, deliberate grace that made me want to hide under the espresso machine. The angry oat milk man tried to say something to her, but she didn't even glance his way. She just kept her eyes on me. She stopped at the register, her presence so overwhelming I could smell her. Cedar, dark coffee, and something expensive and unreachable. "Maya Thorne," she said. Her voice was low, smooth, and held the weight of an absolute command. It wasn't a question. "How do you know my name?" I whispered, my voice cracking in a way that was deeply embarrassing. "You are not particularly difficult to find when one has the proper motivation," she replied. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a phone. A very sleek, very expensive phone. She turned the screen toward me. There it was. My yellow-lit bathroom, the 2 pink lines, my frantic text. "You blocked me," she said. Her tone wasn't angry. It was worse. It was curious, like a scientist looking at a particularly strange bug. I'm so sorry," I stammered, my hands gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles went white. "It was a mistake. I typed the number wrong. I was panicked and I didn't mean to send that to you. I've already blocked the number. I'm going to delete the photo. Please just leave me alone. I don't even know who you are." "Elena Vance," she said. The name hit me like a physical blow. Elena Vance, the CEO of Vance Global, the woman whose face was on the cover of every business magazine, the woman who had single-handedly revolutionized global security systems, the woman who was rumored to have a heart made of polished obsidian. I had sent a photo of my uterus's current contents to the most powerful woman in the city. "I think I'm going to throw up," I said, and I meant it. Elena didn't flinch. She just watched me. "You sent me a piece of information that is deeply private," she said, "and then you attempted to vanish. I do not like things that are left unresolved, Maya, and I certainly do not like being blocked. I'll unblock you. I'll unblock you right now. I'll send you a formal apology in calligraphy. Just please. I have a shift to finish, and my life is already a disaster, and I really can't handle a billionaire haunting my workplace." "You're coming with me," she said. It wasn't a request. It was an executive order. The manager of the shop, a man named Gary who usually spent his time yelling at me for using too many napkins, suddenly appeared. He looked at Elena, then at her coat, then at the black SUV parked illegally out front with 2 men in suits standing beside it. "Maya, take the rest of the day off," Gary said, his voice trembling. "Take the rest of the year. Just go." I looked at Gary, then at Elena, who was still just standing there, waiting. She didn't have to raise her voice. She didn't have to threaten. Her existence was the threat. I took off my apron. My hands were still shaking. I felt like I was walking toward my own execution, or maybe a very high-end kidnapping. I followed her out of the shop, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. One of the men in suits opened the door to the SUV. The interior smelled like leather and silence. Elena slid in and I followed, feeling like a stray cat that had somehow ended up in a palace. The door closed with a soft, expensive thud, sealing us away from the world. "Where are we going?" I asked, clutching my backpack to my chest. "To somewhere we can discuss your situation without the scent of burnt beans," she said. She didn't look at me. She was looking at her own phone, her fingers moving with terrifying efficiency. "My situation? There is no situation. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to figure it out. You have $4.12 in your checking account," she said, her voice flat. "You are 3 months behind on your rent. Your studio apartment has a mold problem in the corner of the ceiling that you have attempted to cover with a poster of a French film you haven't actually watched. You are not in a position to figure it out, Maya." I stared at her, my jaw dropping. "You looked at my bank account? You looked at my apartment?" "I looked at everything," she said. "When someone sends me a life-altering photograph, I tend to perform a background check. It is a matter of security. It's a matter of stalking." I snapped, my fear finally turning into a flickering flame of indignation. "You can't just do that. You can't just dismantle my privacy because I made a typo. I can do many things, Maya, and right now I am doing the thing that ensures you do not end up on the street with a child you cannot afford." The car moved smoothly through the city, the skyscrapers blurring past the tinted windows. I felt a strange, dizzying sense of vertigo. My tiny, exhausted life had just collided with a marble empire, and I was pretty sure the marble was winning. We arrived at a building that was all glass and steel, a monolith of power in the heart of the financial district. The penthouse. Of course it was a penthouse. We went up in an elevator that moved so fast my ears popped, and when the doors opened, I was standing in a space that didn't feel like a home. It felt like a museum. Everything was white, gray, or black. The floors were polished stone, the furniture looked like it had been designed by an angry architect, and the view of the city was so vast it made me feel like a speck of dust. "Sit," Elena said, gesturing to a sofa that probably cost more than my college tuition. I sat. I felt small. I felt like a smudge on a clean sheet of paper. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice small. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. You could have just ignored the text." "I could have," she agreed. She walked over to a floor-to-ceiling window and looked out at the city. "But I find myself bored with the predictable, Maya. And your text was decidedly unpredictable. Also, I do not believe in accidents. I believe in collisions. And we have collided." She turned back to me, her expression unreadable. "You will stay here, for now. You will have access to the best medical care. You will not worry about rent. You will not worry about coffee beans. You will simply exist under my protection." "This is a kidnapping," I said, a hysterical laugh bubbling up in my throat. "This is a high-end, 5-star kidnapping." "Call it what you wish," she said, "but you're not going back to that studio. I have already sent a team to pack your belongings." "My belongings? There's nothing there but some half-finished sketches and a very sentimental toaster." "Then the toaster will be brought here," she said without even a hint of a smile. I spent the next 3 days in a state of catatonic shock. I wandered the penthouse like a ghost. There were rooms I didn't even know the purpose of. The kitchen was a masterpiece of stainless steel where a chef appeared 3 times a day to make me meals that involved ingredients I couldn't pronounce. I had a bedroom with a bed so soft I felt like I was being swallowed by a cloud. There were clothes in the closet, expensive soft fabrics in my size. Elena had thought of everything. She was methodical. She was precise. She was terrifying. We didn't talk much. She was gone before I woke up and came back long after the sun had set. But she was always there, in the background of my life. A silent, looming presence. She noticed things. She noticed that I didn't like the fancy green juice the chef made. So the next day, it was replaced with orange juice. She noticed that I spent my afternoons drawing on the floor because the desk felt too formal. So a plush rug and a low table appeared in the living room. She was dismantling the walls between us, one small detail at a time. The first time we really talked was on the 4th night. I was in the kitchen trying to figure out how to work the espresso machine because I desperately needed something familiar. I was wearing one of the oversized cashmere sweaters that had been left for me, and I probably looked like a very lost child. The lights were low, the city lights twinkling outside like a sea of diamonds. I heard her footsteps before I saw her, the steady, rhythmic click of her heels on the stone floor. "You're awake," she said. I jumped, nearly dropping the silver carafe. "Jesus, you need to wear a bell or something. You're like a very elegant ninja." She walked into the kitchen, her coat gone, her silk blouse unbuttoned at the collar. She looked tired. It was the first time I'd seen a crack in the marble. "You are struggling with the machine," she observed. "It's too smart for me," I said, leaning against the counter. "It has more buttons than a spaceship. I just want a cup of coffee that doesn't require a manual." She walked over, her presence making the air feel thick again. She didn't say anything, just reached out and pressed 3 buttons in quick succession. The machine hummed to life, the scent of expensive beans filling the air. "Thank you," I muttered. She didn't move away. She stayed right there, her shoulder inches from mine. "Why do you fight everything, Maya?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, almost reflective. "Because I didn't ask for this," I said, looking down at my feet. "I was managing. I was doing okay." "You weren't," she said. "You were drowning, and you were doing it alone. Is that so bad? To want to handle your own life? To not want to be someone's project? You are not a project, she said. She turned to face me, and the intensity in her eyes made me catch my breath. Then what am I? I'm a stranger who sent you a wrong number text. I'm a mistake in your inbox. She reached out, her fingers hovering just inches from my cheek before she pulled back. It was the most human thing I'd seen her do. Everyone in my life wants something from me, Maya, she said. My board wants profit. My employees want stability. My rivals want my downfall. You just want me to go away. You are the only person who treats me like a problem to be avoided, rather than a resource to be harvested. I find that disorienting. I looked at her, really looked at her. Beneath the power and the suits and the billion-dollar empire, there was a profound, echoing loneliness. It was the kind of loneliness that you only see in people who have everything and no one to share it with. I don't want you to be a problem, I said softly. I just don't know how to be a guest. Then don't be a guest, she said. Be a collision. She walked away then, leaving me with a steaming cup of coffee and a heart that was suddenly beating for a very different reason. The next few weeks were a blur of domesticity and tension. I started to get used to the penthouse, or at least I stopped tripping over the expensive rugs. I spent my days drawing, the light from the massive windows giving my sketches a life they'd never had in my dark studio. Elena was still Elena, cold, professional, demanding, but the edges were softening. We had a routine. Morning coffee, silent but shared. Evening meals where we talked about everything except the situation. She told me about her childhood, about being a girl who loved math and hated dolls, about the sheer grinding work it took to build her empire. I told her about my art, about my sister, about the way the light hits the city at 4 p.m. One evening I was cold. The penthouse was always kept at a temperature that felt slightly too low for humans, probably to keep the marble from sweating. I wandered into Elena's bedroom. I know I shouldn't have, but I was desperate. And I found a sweater draped over a chair. It was dark gray, soft as a sigh, and it smelled exactly like her. I put it on. It was huge on me, the sleeves swallowing my hands, the hem reaching my mid-thigh. I felt safe in it. I went back to the living room and curled up on the sofa with my sketchbook. I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I knew, the sun was down and the front door was clicking shut. I scrambled to sit up, my hair a mess, the oversized sweater sliding off one shoulder. Elena walked in. She stopped dead when she saw me. She saw the sweater. She saw the way I was looking at her, half awake and vulnerable. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, her expression unreadable, her eyes dark. I was cold, I stammered, clutching the fabric. I'm sorry, I should have asked. It's really soft. She didn't move. She didn't tell me to take it off. She just looked at me with an intensity that made my skin tingle. It looks better on you than it does on me, she said finally. Her voice was thick, like she was fighting to keep it steady. She walked past me, her hand brushing against my arm as she went. It was a small touch, but it felt like an electric shock. I stayed in that sweater for the rest of the night. I stayed in it for the next 3 days. It was becoming a problem. I was starting to like the cage. I was starting to like the woman who built it, but the world outside wasn't done with us. I was sitting in the living room trying to sketch a view of the park when the elevator opened. It wasn't Elena. It was a woman I'd seen in the news, Julianne Thorne, no relation, thank God, a rival CEO and a woman who looked like she ate glass for breakfast. She walked into the penthouse like she owned it, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. So, she said, her voice dripping with mock sympathy, this is the little secret. I stood up, my heart hammering. Who are you? How did you get in here? I'm an old friend of Elena's, she said, walking toward me. And I have to say her taste is usually more polished. But I suppose everyone has a midlife crisis. She stopped a few feet away, her eyes raking over my oversized sweater and my messy hair. Does she know you're a liability, Maya? Or are you just a temporary distraction? I'm not a liability, I said, trying to find the voice Ryland. No, wrong story. trying to find the voice Elena had taught me to use. Get out. Julianne laughed. It was a sharp, unpleasant sound. Oh, I'm leaving. But you should know. Elena doesn't keep things that aren't useful. And right now, you're a very big target. If I found you, others will too. And they won't be as polite as I am. She turned and walked out, the elevator doors closing with a finality that left me shaking. I was a lever. That was the realization. I was a way to get to Elena. I wasn't a person in this world. I was a vulnerability. When Elena came home that night, I was waiting for her. I told her about Julianne. I told her what she'd said. Elena's face didn't just go cold. It turned to ice. She went to the phone and made 3 calls, her voice low and lethal. She was moving pieces I couldn't even see. You're leaving, she said, turning to me. No, I said, I'm not running again. Maya, this is not a debate. Julianne is dangerous. She will use you to get to me. She will leak your situation to the press. She will make your life a living hell just to see me flinch. Then let her, I said, walking up to her. Let her see you flinch. Because if you send me away, she wins. She proves that I'm just a thing you're hiding. Elena looked at me, her chest heaving. You don't understand the world I live in, she said. I understand that I love you, I blurted out. The silence that followed was absolute. I hadn't meant to say it. I hadn't even fully admitted it to myself. But there it was, hanging in the air between us, as bold and terrifying as those 2 pink lines. I love you, I repeated, my voice stronger now. And I know you feel something too. You don't buy sweaters for people you don't care about. You don't replace their green juice. You don't look at them the way you look at me. Elena didn't move. She looked like she'd been turned to stone. Then, slowly, she reached out and took my face in her hands. Her palms were warm, her touch surprisingly gentle. You are a disaster, Maya Thorne, she whispered. I know, I said. A complete and utter mess. You have ruined my schedule, she said. You have disrupted my board meetings. You have made me think about things I haven't thought about in 20 years. Good, I said. She leaned in, her forehead pressing against mine. If you stay, there is no going back. My life is a war zone. Then I'll be your medic, I said. She kissed me then. It wasn't like the movies. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was a collision. It was the sound of 2 worlds smashing together and refusing to break. It tasted like coffee and longing and a future I hadn't dared to imagine. The crisis came 2 days later. It was the annual Vance Global Gala, a black-tie event where the city's elite gathered to pretend they liked each other. Elena had insisted I come. She'd had a dress made for me, a deep emerald silk that made me look like a forest nymph who had wandered into a boardroom. I was terrified. I was standing in the ballroom clutching a glass of sparkling water when Julianne appeared. She was surrounded by a group of photographers and reporters. She looked at me and smiled, and I knew the trap was about to spring. Miss Thorne, she called out, her voice carrying across the room. I was so surprised to see you here. Tell me, how is the project coming along? Are you and Elena planning a press release for the new addition to the Vance legacy? The room went silent. Every head turned toward me. The cameras started flashing. I felt the panic rising, the familiar urge to run, to hide, to vanish. But then, a hand landed on the small of my back, a steady, grounding weight. Elena stepped forward. She didn't look at the cameras. She didn't look at the reporters. She looked directly at Julianne. Julianne, she said, her voice echoing through the ballroom. I'm glad you could make it. It saves me the trouble of sending you a formal notice. A notice? Julianne asked, her smile faltering. Yes, a notice that Vance Global has just completed a hostile takeover of your primary holding company. You are no longer the CEO of anything, Julianne. You are a footnote. The gasps from the crowd were audible. Julianne's face went pale, her composure crumbling in real time. And as for Maya, Elena continued, turning to face the room, she isn't a project. She isn't a secret. She is mine. I have spent my life building an empire of steel and glass, but Maya is the only thing in this room that actually matters. If any of you have a problem with that, you can discuss it with my legal team on your way out. She took my hand, her fingers interlacing with mine. She led me through the crowd, her head held high, her presence so fierce that the photographers actually stepped back to let us pass. We walked out of the gala, out of the building, and into the cool night air. We didn't go back to the SUV. We just walked. "Why did you do that?" I asked once we were a block away. "You just burned half your business connections." "They weren't connections," she said. "They were parasites. And I'm tired of being a resource, Maya. I want to be a person." She stopped under a street lamp, the yellow light catching the emerald of my dress. "I chose you," she said. "I chose this. It wasn't an accident." I looked at her, the powerful, terrifying, brilliant woman who had dismantled my life and replaced it with something beautiful. "It was a collision," I said. "Exactly the right one. Time has a way of blurring the edges of a storm. It has been a year since that night at the gala. A year since the wrong number changed everything. We are in the penthouse, but it doesn't feel like a museum anymore. There are sketches pinned to the walls. There is a very sentimental toaster in the kitchen. There is a nursery down the hall, filled with soft light and the scent of baby powder. Elena is sitting on the sofa, her laptop forgotten beside her. She is holding our daughter, Lily, who has Elena's eyes and my penchant for making a mess. Elena is humming a song I don't recognize, her voice low and soothing. I am sitting across from them, my sketchbook in my lap, trying to capture the way the moonlight hits them. I look at the two of them, and I think about that afternoon in the laundromat. I think about the panic, the $4.12, the 2 pink lines. I think about the typo that sent my secret to the most powerful woman in the city. I look at my phone, which is currently sitting on the coffee table. I still have that number saved. I never changed it. I pick it up and I send a text. It's a photo of the two of them, sleeping peacefully in the moonlight. "I love you," I type. The reply comes almost immediately, even though Elena is asleep. I look at her laptop, a scheduled message, set to go off whenever I text her. "I love you more," it says. I smile, leaning back into the cushions. The universe has a very specific sense of humor, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to be the one who laughs last. It was a small, stupid accident, a misdelivered message. A wrong number. But as I watch my family in the quiet of our home, I realize it was never a mistake. It was just the only way we were ever going to find each other. The things that change your life are rarely the things you planned for. They are the things that happen when you're busy worrying about oat milk and rent. They are the collisions that break you open so the light can get in. I put down my sketchbook and walk over to the sofa. I curl up beside them, the marble empire finally feeling like home. It was the perfect collision, the only one that mattered. And as I close my eyes, I realize that I wouldn't change a single digit of that phone number for anything in the world. 365 days later, and I still can't believe I almost missed this bus stop. But I'm here now. We're here. And the view is absolutely breathtaking. I think about the person I was before the text. Scared, small, hiding. I think about the person I am now. Whole, loved, dangerous in my own right. Elena taught me that power isn't about how much you own. It's about how much you're willing to protect. And she protects us with everything she is. I reach out and touch Lily's small, soft hand. She stirs in her sleep, reaching for Elena. Elena shifts, her arm tightening around our daughter, her eyes opening just enough to see me. "You're staring," she whispers, her voice thick with sleep. "You're beautiful," I say. She smiles, a real, genuine smile that reaches her eyes. "Go to sleep, Maya. We have a big day tomorrow." I nod, resting my head on her shoulder. The city hums outside, a million lives intersecting, a million accidents waiting to happen. But I'm not worried anymore. I've already had my accident, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The 2 pink lines that once looked like a death sentence now look like a beginning. The cold marble of the penthouse now feels like a warm embrace. And the woman who was never supposed to know my secret is now the only person I want to share my life with. It's funny how a single digit can change the world, how a wrong number can lead you to the right person, how a collision can turn into a home, I close my eyes, listening to the steady rhythm of Elena's heart. It's a powerful sound, a constant sound, a sound that tells me without a doubt that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. No more running, no more hiding. Just this, just us, the perfect, chaotic, beautiful result of a very lucky mistake. The radiator still hums, the city still glows, and somewhere out there, someone is probably sending a text to the wrong person. I hope they're as lucky as I was. I hope their collision is just as spectacular. Because in a world of billions of people, sometimes it takes a wrong number to find the one who was meant for you all along. And that, I think, is the best punchline of all. I feel Elena's hand find mine in the dark, her fingers squeezing gently. I squeeze back, a silent promise in the quiet of the night. We are a house of cards no longer. We are a fortress. We are a family. And it all started with a text that was never supposed to be read. I think back to that first message. Who is this? I know the answer now. I'm the woman who found her way home through a typo. I'm the woman who turned a billionaire's life upside down. I'm the woman who loves Elena Vance. And that is a secret I'm glad the whole world knows. The moonlight fades as the first hint of dawn touches the sky. A new day, a new chapter, but the same beautiful story. I drift off to sleep, a smile on my lips, finally at peace with the chaos of the universe, because even the biggest mistakes can lead to the most perfect endings. And this is only the beginning of ours. I can still taste the dark coffee and cedar on the air. I can still feel the weight of the emerald silk against my skin. I can still hear the sound of the ballroom falling silent as she claimed me. It's a movie that never stops playing in my head. A movie with a happy ending. A movie about two women who met by accident and stayed by choice. And as the sun rises over the city, I know that no matter what happens next, we'll handle it together. Because even the most powerful woman in the world needs someone to come home to. And even the biggest mess of a girl can be someone's greatest treasure. We are the contrast that makes the world interesting. We are the marble and the mess, and we are exactly where we need to be. The end is just another beginning, and our beginning was the best mistake I ever made. I think about the laundromat one last time, the smell of cheap soap, the flickering light, the terror. I wouldn't trade it, not for $1 million, not for a perfect plan, because that terror led me to her. And her? She's everything. She's the storm and the shelter. She's the question and the answer. She's the woman who answered a wrong number and decided to keep the caller. And I'm the caller who decided to stay. The world is full of accidents. But this one was fate. And fate, it turns out, has excellent taste in women. I breathe in the scent of cedar and baby powder, and I finally, truly know, everything is going to be okay. Better than okay. It's going to be extraordinary. Because we didn't just find each other, we collided, and the impact was beautiful.